Supreme Court won't expedite ruling on Trump's immunity claim. The Supreme Court on Friday said it will not fast-track consideration of Donald Trump's claim that he is immune from prosecution for actions he took as president, a question crucial to whether he can be put on trial for plotting to overturn the results of the 2020 election. The court's one-sentence order offered no explanation for turning down special counsel Jack Smith's request for an expedited review, which he said was needed to keep Trump's election obstruction trial on track for early March. The order can be seen as, at least, a limited and temporary win for Trump, who has actively worked to delay the legal proceedings against him as he campaigns again for the Republican presidential nomination. The issue of presidential immunity will likely return to the Supreme Court, but not before a federal appeals court in Washington reviews a district judge's ruling earlier this month that flatly rejected Trump's claims. That court has expedited its proceedings, and will hold arguments on Jan. 9. It is customary for the Supreme Court not to explain its reasonings for denying a motion for expedited review, which Smith acknowledged was an extraordinary request being made in an extraordinary case. There were no noted dissents and no indication that Justice Clarence Thomas had recused himself, despite calls from some congressional Democrats that he does so because of his wife's involvement in challenging the results of the 2020 election. Smith had asked the justices to short-circuit the normal appellate process and quickly settle the question of presidential criminal immunity, which the Supreme Court has not previously been called upon to resolve. He said public interest required intervention now, to avoid delaying Trump's D.C. federal trial. The scheduled start date is March 4, a day before the Super Tuesday primary contests, in which Trump is the clear GOP frontrunner. This case involves, for the first time in our nation's history, criminal charges against a former president based on his actions while in office, Smith said in a filing to the Supreme Court. And not just any actions, alleged acts to perpetuate himself in power by frustrating the constitutionally prescribed process for certifying the lawful winner of an election. Trump's lawyers told the justices that the issue was too important to be rushed, and that Smith, by seeking to hasten the timetable, is doing the bidding of President Biden's re-election campaign. Smith confuses the public interest with the manifest partisan interest in ensuring that President Trump will be subjected to a months-long criminal trial at the height of a presidential campaign where he is the leading candidate and the only serious opponent of the current administration, Trump lawyer D. John Sauer wrote. Trump responded to the court's action in a statement that reiterated his false claims that he, rather than Biden, won 3 years ago. Of course I am entitled to presidential immunity, he wrote on his social media site Truth Social. I was president, it was my right and duty to investigate, and speak on, the rigged and stolen 2020 presidential election. Looking forward to the very important arguments on presidential immunity in front of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Trump is charged in federal court in D.C. with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to obstruct an official proceeding, obstructing a congressional proceeding and conspiracy against rights, in this case, the right to vote, and to have one's vote counted. Each charge relates to Trump's actions in the aftermath of his loss to Biden, including the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, which disrupted the counting of the electoral votes.